But currently, I am doing an Asian Women Who Boss Up podcast book tour. And so I highlight 2 Asian women who boss up authors every week, sharing their wisdom, sharing their tips, sharing why representation is so important. And just I want the listeners to get to know a little bit more about each author and why it's so important to support a book like this, because it's needed, right? It's just needed. It's just time for us to get more visibility, get more representation that we've been craving. And like I said, if you really crave for that representation, it really has to start with you. Who cares if you have nothing to start with? You can go out there and make it happen. It's not going to be easy, of course. It's going to suck, but it'll be all worth it in the end.
Welcome, Sheena. Thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, Dali, thanks for inviting me, and I'm so excited to be here today. It's actually Lunar New Year, so happy Lunar New Year to everyone. Well, I'm sure by the time this comes out, it's after that, but still, happy Lunar New Year. So I'm just really excited to be here today to connect with you and share some insights with your audience, and yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and happy Lunar New Year to you too. Actually, it's funny that you say that because I did a post to educate people on that because, we got to learn about others in order to be more open-minded and understand why people do certain things. So thank you for mentioning that. So I'm so excited that you're here. I found you online, I think through Instagram, and then I went onto your website and I love what you do. So can you explain to people who you are and what you do?
For sure. So my name is Sheena Yap Chan. I live in Toronto, Canada, and I help Asian women break out of their shells so they can live an authentic life and thrive. And I do that through keynote speaking, coaching, podcasting, also writing books. We have a book coming out called Asian Women Who Boss Up, which I'm super excited about because there's no books out there that's like it, highlighting, 16 Asian women on a cover of a book is huge because for me, representation is everything. Growing up, I never had that. It was really hard for me to even see my own worth as an Asian person because all I ever saw on TV and on billboards and on magazines was white people. And back then I wanted to name myself Heather, had blonde hair and blue eyes. And yeah. I also have a podcast called the Tao of Self Confidence where I interview Asian women about their journey to self-confidence. I've interviewed over like 700 Asian women on this topic of self-confidence because it was definitely needed. Growing up, I never found any support system where I could turn to help with my own self-confidence issues that's, specifically geared for Asian women. And so that's why I decided to create it. Same thing with representation. I've been craving representation for the longest time. And I realized if I wanted something, it had to start with me. And so I made it happen. And so this is just, proof that you can create something out of nothing, right? It can start with an idea and you just got to go out there and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And that's one of the things that attracted me to you because, as you know, the DABA or the Diversity and Anti-Bullying Academy focuses also on the diversity part. And I feel actually that the last few years, I haven't focused so much on the diversity part. And the fact that you are Asian and you are doing this, it is something new to my platform. And I want people to know more about you and educate themselves more about the Asian community. There's something that you said earlier about the news and what's happening to the Asian community that I like, if you could please explain or tell us a little bit about it. And perhaps if you happen to know exactly what it is that caused what's going on right now, if you could share that too.
For sure. Well, I mean, racism in Asia, towards Asian Americans have been going on for a long time, right? Even back in history, we had this Chinese Exclusion Act, Japanese were in Campton, Hawaii. They were I don't really know the real history of it, but I know they also had suffering through that. But now with the coronavirus or the COVID pandemic, Asians are targeted more for, the color of their skin because we've been blamed for, bringing the pandemic to the world. And, these are people who are not able to fend for themselves because a lot of people are targeting our elderly community, which is so sad. They're being pushed off the streets, they're being robbed, they're being slashed in the faces. And it's not just our elderly that's being targeted. Now they're targeting women, they're targeting children. And this is a form of bullying, right? Because it's like an anti-hate crime and nobody's talking about it and nobody's bringing it up on mainstream media because I don't know, maybe it doesn't give the ratings, but we really got to go out there and speak up. And this is why it's so important as part of bossing up is to speak your truth and speak up about matters, things that matter to you, like this crazy hate crime. Like in the past week alone, there was like 5 or 6 hate crimes that was going on, and it's just so unfortunate. And there's so many out there still that's not reported to the media. And in Canada, it happens as well. It's just nobody talks about it, right? And so it's really important to speak up, speak your truth, educate others what's happening. Even if you're the only one talking about it, you have to start somewhere. You might not that you might think that nobody's listening to you, but there's someone out there listening to you. There's someone out there who cares about these issues as well. And so it's really important to speak up for, especially our elderly community, right? That really hurts me the most because I still have 2 grandmas that live in the Philippines, and that could happen to my grandmas, right? And if that ever happened, knock on wood, like I would be bawling my eyes out because they can't fend for themselves. They're already in their 80s and 90s, and they're going to be targeted just for the color of their skin or because of their cultural background. And it's just unfair, right? Like you're targeting all these people who can't fend for themselves, right? And what does that say about you? Like you're such a coward for, you know, targeting people based on the color of their skin, based on their age group. I mean, like what does that say about you? I don't know what's going through their heads, but really I just want us to stop this. And it's not like hating one culture and another. It's really learning to, create that bridge and learn to stand side by side, right? Have different cultures stand side by side instead of creating like which side versus which side.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on something. You said that it's a form of bullying. It absolutely is. Sometimes people hate it when I say bullying is a gateway to other types of abuses. But if you think about it, if you cannot stop something like bullying at school, which for the most part, usually it's not as bad as what happens to adults, right? But of course, we've seen that some children even take their lives when they're being bullied. And the other thing that you mentioned is, like, why is this happening? It is also because of that stereotype that continues to linger in the world, and people don't take the time to educate themselves about what's truly going on. And for example, right now, that you were saying, like, nobody's talking about it. I'm like, oh, I'm one of those people who didn't know until just very recently. And I don't know if I didn't know because I stopped watching the news because it got too intense for me the last few years. But it's definitely something that we need to address. And I feel like the Asian community, just like the Latin community, is always ignored in the news. Coming back to Asian women, I have no idea that these attacks were going on. And one of the things that I stress all the time is that if you can speak up and do something, to do it, because usually it doesn't take you putting yourself in danger in order to stop an altercation. Sometimes it can be something as simple as reporting it, or as coming up to the person who had been attacked and then walk them away from that person and make sure that they're safe. Or even after the event, they can walk over and say, hey, you didn't deserve that, let me get you some help, how can I help? That I'm sure that means a world to the person who just went through that type of abuse and trauma. But the other thing that I really like and I want to make sure that we talk about is your book. Can you tell us a little bit more about this book?
For sure. So, this book actually came out of the pandemic, right? Everyone's trying to pivot ways to make a positive impact in the world. And I met another lady last year named Tam Luck. She's actually the creator of these Women of Who Boss Up series. And we decided to do an Asian Women Who Boss Up book because it was just needed, right? There's nothing out there like it. You don't see it on Amazon or any bookstore, just highlighting Asian women on a book cover because that is huge, right? And I remember sharing it in like, a Facebook group that's, an Asian Facebook group. And a lot of women love the feedback because it was so needed, right? Especially like, for me, creating a strong representation of Asian women is so important because we're so underrepresented. And you don't see books like this in a bookstore where it highlights 16 Asian women, highlighting their stories of how they're able to forge their own path and thrive. And, we're creating other book series as well. Another one that's coming out is Women of Color, because I believe as women of color, we need to learn to stand together as one and unite versus, trying to pick sides because it's 2021. We really need to create that bond, right? Because it's better to work together. But I'm really passionate about this Asian Women Who Boss Up book because I just feel like when I look at it, I feel so like proud. It's like when I first saw Crazy Rich Asians, just seeing, all these Asian actors on this movie screen, like I got so emotional. I was like crying out of happiness because it's like finally there's something or someone who's representing us. And so this is how I feel about the book. It's like I have a platform, and that's what people were saying. I was also sharing this on a Facebook group, an Asian Facebook group, and the response was amazing because they were like, finally I have a platform, finally I see something. Like, we've been bossing up for so long and nobody talks about it. And that's true, nobody talks about it. Like, anything that happens to our Asian culture, nobody talks about it. I don't know, it's because of our upbringing. We've always been told to, just follow what just do what you're told and never make any noise, never make any noise, never make any noise, because anything we do outside of that is just considered shameful. And we really have to let go of that shame, because it's just like, this is like, it's just hurting us. It creates all these, mental health issues that we go through. And so this is why it's so important to speak up, to boss up, especially in a time like this where there's so many people in our community who's being targeted based on the color of their skin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that on the cover you put the picture of all the ladies. Can you give us a little bit of can you give us an idea of what ladies, like what kind of background they come from, who
Oh,
are?
sure. So we have, Chinese ladies, Filipino ladies, Thai, Vietnamese, Korean, Indian. I mean, like, a handful of Asian women really representing this book, because we realize, like, a lot of people think Asian people are just Chinese people, and it's not. Like, Asia is a huge continent. Like, there's so many different countries, and we tried our best to get as many different Asian cultures as we can, right? And so I'm just really excited about this. We have keynote speakers. We have women who've been featured on Oprah's magazine. We have people who own spas, who have cookbooks, who've, overcame breast cancer. Like, the diversity is so great. And this is why I love it, because we always want to showcase multifaceted Asian women versus like having that model minority that Asian women are quiet, Asian women are submissive, Asian women are obedient, Asian women are treated as sex objects. No, we're not. Asian women are strong, we're resilient, we're resourceful, we're confident, we're courageous. We always do what it takes to just make things happen. And that's not always easy. I know, because my grandmothers would always tell me what they had to go through just to be where they are today. And so if we highlight more of these stories, there's our future generation can have someone to look up to and say, if she can do it, so can I. If she can be a vice president, I can be a vice president, and so on. And we really need like more women leadership now more than ever. I recently read a report where they said gender parity is not going to be achieved for another 130 years.
Oh,
And there's no way in hell I'm going to wait another 130 years just so we can get equality. Like, this is just ridiculous, right? This is why not just Asian women, but all women need to like step up and help each other out, help each other rise up so we can change those numbers. Like, it's 2021. Like, we need to go out there and just be vocal, create visibility.
yeah. Oh, I love that you included people with different backgrounds. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that not all Asian women are from one specific background, because, I meet a lot of people that think that when I say, oh, yeah, this person is from Asia, and they're like, oh, so we're in China. I'm like, why do you assume it's directly from China? What about another country, So, but it's just a lack of the public discussion. If we had more public discussions about people from Asia, then people would know that which countries to include in that category, right? And as a matter of fact, when you mentioned Crazy Rich Asians, I loved that movie. And, I know a little bit, I'm not going to say I know a ton about Asian culture, but even for me, when I watched that movie, not only did I love it, but it made me see how similar we are. We're different, but similar. I mean, just like any other culture, any other ethnicity or race, we have people who are like the crazy family member, the real strict one, that mother-in-law that's really strict, and then that loving person, or, and then, yeah, we like to boogie down and party. And then we also have very passionate anger, just like any other human being. And I spoke with a few people and they were like, wow, I didn't know that Asian people could get down like that. I'm like, well, they're human. Why wouldn't they, you know? But the representation is so important, especially for our younger people, because we need to educate the younger ones in order to reduce that 100 and some year parity or, you know, 100 and some whatever years it's going to take to achieve equality. And it makes me sad to know that realistically it's gonna take a long, long time. I wish I could say by the time my kids are adult, but I mean, I have a 14-year-old right now, so she's just 4 years away from being an adult. And sadly, she's going to have to deal with a lot of the things that we have dealt with, and our, you know, people behind before us had to deal with. But I think that books like yours are going to help open up some minds and share knowledge and debunk those stereotypes that hold us down. Now, aside from the book, do you have any other events going on?
So we will be having an Asian Women Who Boss Up virtual summit. That's going to be towards the end of March. And so it's free to attend. I'll have more details about it on my website. But this is amazing, right? Like I mentioned, these will be all the authors in the book who are going to give you tips to, you know, build your business, start your business, or keep going on your business, and just give the tools and resources for women out there who want to start something. Because you know, this pandemic has really affected women a lot more than men, right? Most women have been forced to quit their jobs because they have to stay at home with their kids because of online learning. And some of them would rather stay home than go work for a job. I mean, we want you to find ways to create that financial independence so that you don't have to worry about that when something like this happens again. I mean, I've read so many reports like in December alone, like job losses for women were 100%, you know, or women of color have dealt with more job losses than white women. And we've also dealt with more imposter syndrome, mental health issues. And, you know, the more we can help women, I believe the more we can help women, that's how we're going to change the world, because I believe women just do it better. I mean, if you read any stories of, you know, countries that have like really done well with the pandemic, like Taiwan and New Zealand, like, you know, like super strict rules, like really crazy contact tracing, like anything like they did everything and like everything to do to like make sure that their people are safe and they can live that normal life that we wish we had. So it's really important as women, we have to really help each other, because it's better if we work together than, you know, fighting with each other, right? And I know that happens. Like this is like the truth. We fight with each other sometimes, right? We get jealous, we want to be competitive, we want to be better than someone else, but really that hurts us, right? We have to learn to work together, work side by side, and help each other out, because the more we can do that, the more we can help women rise up, be the leaders that they're meant to be, and bring those numbers, you know, at least to like an equal number versus like this huge gap.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so you said this is a free virtual summit, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be summertime, you said?
No, end of March.
Summer. Sorry, I don't know why I thought summertime. End of March. Absolutely. And where can they go? Where can people go to sign up for it?
Yeah, for sure. They can check out my website, sheenayapchan.com, or the Tao of Self Confidence.com. We'll have that information there. You can also pre order a copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up on my websites as well. And you can also check out the Tao of Self Confidence if you need a little boost of confidence for the day. It's only like 10, 15 minutes long, and you get to listen to so many women's stories. And I love hearing all their stories, because at least what you can relate to one person out of all the 800 women that I've interviewed. And that's on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and now on Amazon, because Amazon now has podcasts. So yeah, and feel free to connect with Sheena Yap Chan on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Or if you Google Sheena Yap Chan, I'm like the only Sheena Yap Chan in the internet.
Okay. So the Tao Self Confidence podcast, how often do you have new episodes?
So when I first started, I did 5 episodes a week. And yes, I was that crazy Asian who decided to do that. I have no idea why. But I'm glad I did it. And so this season, I've actually like pushed it back a little bit and started doing like once every 2 weeks. But currently, I am doing an Asian Women Who Boss Up podcast book tour. And so I highlight 2 Asian women who boss up authors every week, sharing their wisdom, sharing their tips, sharing why representation is so important. And just I want the listeners to get to know a little bit more about each author and why it's so important to support a book like this, because it's needed, right? It's just needed. It's just time for us to get more visibility, get more representation that we've been craving. And like I said, if you really crave for that representation, it really has to start with you. Who cares if you have nothing to start with? You can go out there and make it happen. It's not going to be easy, of course. It's going to suck, but it'll be all worth it in the end.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And before we go, I'd like to end by speaking about debunking certain stereotypes, since lots of people are probably going to be watching this. What are some stereotypes that you'd like to inform us about and correct?
Well, a lot of people think all Chinese people eat like dog meat. No. Let's debunk that. Not all Chinese people are good at math. Not all Chinese women are bad drivers. And not all Asian women are quiet, submissive. And well, we're just not quiet, submissive, and obedient, right? We shouldn't be treated as sex objects. We're a lot, like I mentioned, we're strong, we're courageous, we're resourceful. We figure things out along the way, and we're not perfect. I know we've been taught to like always have that perfect picture, be that perfect model citizen or perfect daughter, perfect wife, perfect mother, but honestly there's no such thing as perfection. We need to let go of this idea of perfection, because it's just an illusion. And the more we can go out there and just take imperfect action, the more people will appreciate that, because we understand nobody's perfect.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and for educating us. And I look forward to getting my book in the mail, actually, because I just ordered it.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Of course, I've got to. I love learning more about other people. And thank you so much for making time to come onto the DaliTalks Show and share about everything you have going on and helping us debunk some of those stereotypes.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been such a great time chatting with you and just, talking about these things, and hopefully someone out there can realize their own potential and just move forward with their own path.
Thank you. There you have it, folks. Sheena has written this amazing book. The best way to start learning about other cultures is to read their material, especially when it's written by themselves. It's different when somebody else, an outsider, writes a book about a certain ethnicity or about a certain group of people that they cannot truly relate to. Don't forget that you can reach out to Sheena either through her website or through social media. And if you like this video, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to this channel and click that little bell so you're alerted every time that I publish a new video. If you're on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram. And lastly, if you want more insights, please go to DaliTalks.com and subscribe to my newsletter. And do me a favor, the best compliment that you can give me is by posting a comment. Let me know what you thought about this segment. What aha moments did you have? What did you find interesting about it? Let me know. All right, I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.